If you have very little idea what Dungeons & Dragons is and you want to know more about it, this video is for you. Hi everyone, my name is Nate and you are watching WASD20. In this video, I want to give newcomers or the D&D curious an idea of what this game is. Then I'll give you some advice for getting started in this amazing hobby. Now, one common misconception about Dungeons & Dragons from people who don't know much about it is that it's a board game. When we see that some people use little gaming miniatures or tokens on a map on a table, it does look a lot like a board game. But D&D is a game that can be played without any of this. In fact, the D&D starter set just comes with a few books, some character sheets, and dice. And that's really all you need. So if it's not a board game, what is it? Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game, which are also sometimes called pen and paper role-playing games. There are thousands of these games out there, but D&D is the original, the most popular, and is our focus here. In D&D, one person serves as the Dungeon Master, or DM, and then you need any number of players as well. Usually 3 to 5 players in addition to the DM, but it could be 1 player or 15 players. For the record, I definitely don't recommend the 15. I would say probably start out with no more than 5 or 6 players and 1 Dungeon Master, and ideally probably 3 or 4. Now, the way the game works is the Dungeon Master describes a world and environments full of non-player characters, or NPCs, and various creatures. They set scenes for players, presenting basic storylines and obstacles for them to interact with. While the DM controls a lot, the players generally only control 1 character each and make decisions for what their characters will do in the scenarios the DM presents for them. When the outcome of a player action is uncertain, the DM might have the player roll dice to see how things play out, sometimes adding a bonus or a penalty to the die roll based on the player statistics on a character sheet. To help newcomers further understand, it might be good to think of a role-playing video game, like The Legend of Zelda, The Witcher, or Elder Scrolls. Except in D&D, you aren't limited by what the game designers pre-programmed into the game. When the DM sets a scene, there are infinite actions a player can take. And this is all made possible because the DM is a human who is present while the game is being played and can improvise, adapt, and reason in response to player actions in the moment. Unlike a game developer who has to program in a limited set of possibilities and then ship the game out to consumers. Now, the DM's goal is not to defeat the players, but rather to facilitate a good game experience and perhaps a good story. Defeat and despair for the player characters can definitely be an important part of that story, but ideally the Dungeon Master is also providing them opportunities to experience success, to feel like heroes. Likewise, the players should not always view success in overcoming obstacles as the goal of the game on their part. Ideally, players are also contributing to the telling of a good story by actually role-playing. This means acting like their characters would act, paying attention to their personality traits, bonds, even flaws, and tapping into a possible backstory the character might have. You can sort of think of role-playing like acting, and some people even enjoy trying out different voices and accents. Now, all this mention of story and acting might actually hint at a bit of a bias toward the way I play D&D, but there are many different styles of play, and if those things scare you off because you thought it was just a game, you can still enjoy it with very little highfalutin narrative and in-depth roleplay. You see, the ultimate goal for all at the table should be to have fun together. For some, that does mean acting in crazy character voices or interacting with the world and telling a good story. But for others, it means tactical combat, gaining loot, and exploring character options and upgrades. And there are countless other activities that can be a part of these games as well. Exploration, survival in the wilderness, saving up to buy property or run a business, solving mysteries, engaging in diplomacy and politics, and the list goes on and on. And at the end of the day, maybe you're not as into any of this stuff as much as you are the idea of being with friends, rolling some dice, and having some laughs. It just depends on what you and your group enjoy, and sometimes a little compromise is needed. Next, what do you need to get started playing D&D? One option would be to go with the core rulebook, the Player's Handbook, and maybe even throw in the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide. Oh, and probably a set of dice. However, that's not the path I'd recommend for most people who are totally new to the hobby. These books are great and basically make up the foundation of the game, but they are not very beginner friendly. One of these starter boxes is actually going to be a much better entry into the hobby, and they're a lot cheaper. They retail for around $20, but you can often find them on Amazon for less. They each come with a set of dice, character sheets, and a book of basic rules, as well as a short adventure, so you don't have to make up your own storyline, non-player characters, locations, etc. Even if you are really creative and excited about making that stuff, playing one of these pre-written adventures is a great way to learn how adventures are often structured so that you can have some kind of idea what game sessions are often like before you try to create your own. Personally, my favorite is the original 5th edition starter set here with the Green Dragon because I really like the adventure The Lost Mine of Phandelver. It has a classic D&D feel to me. However, the more recent starter set here, the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, is definitely the most beginner-friendly, providing even better explanations of the basics of the game, more helpful explanations on the actual character sheets, providing links to some videos that help you run the first combat in the adventure, and a lot more kind of assists for the totally new Dungeon Master. The Essentials kit here is also really good. It comes with a lot of little extras like loot and condition cards, a flimsy DM screen, some stuff like that. But I didn't really enjoy the adventure as much as the others, and I think it works better as a loose collection of side quests you can add when playing The Lost Mine of Phandelver, as they're both set in the same town. It just felt a little bit disjointed to me, and some of the dungeons were kind of lame in my opinion. Now when we get together for D&D, most groups play a session for 2 to 4 hours. One of these published adventures with the starter boxes would probably last most groups around 10 sessions, depending on length of session and, more importantly, on the style of play. Some groups just move really quickly and others take their time. There's a lot of variation, but the point is you're getting a good amount of content for your money here. Though I will say the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle feels a bit shorter than the others to me. I do have some videos with even more detail on these boxes, which I will link right up above, but to wrap up, these sets are great because they're so much easier than wading through the 300-page player's handbook. They're just way more approachable. They're also quite a bit cheaper than buying the player's handbook for $30 to $50, which makes it an easy purchase to justify for someone who's just kind of thinking about giving the game a try. If you do buy one of these boxes, I would also recommend buying a couple more cheap sets of dice because it's nice to have a set for each player. But it's not a must. And there are actually some great RPG dice apps you can get for free on smartphones. Now, I'm going to put links to all these products down in the video description, and those are affiliate links, so buying through those does give me a small commission, which helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Now, I do want to prepare you for the fact that this game can be challenging for newcomers if you're trying to learn on your own. If you know anyone who plays, or you know that there are D&D games at any local hobby shops or public libraries or other places, honestly, the best way to learn is just to jump into a game with someone who knows what they're doing. That might seem intimidating, but I would say that most DMs I know absolutely love teaching new players, just through the process of playing the game. You can just join up with a pre-generated character, listen, try to do what you think your character would do, and the DM or other players help you figure out what to roll based on the rules and your character sheet. Now, if playing in a game is not a great option for you, I do have some other videos that new players have found really helpful over the years. In my How to Play D&D series, I take players through a couple of short sample sessions as I explain some of the basics along the way while playing. It's a bit dated in terms of production value, but people seem to really like them. If you're wanting a shortcut for learning some of the basic rules in a more systematic way, I definitely recommend my series called D&D Rules School. If you find it difficult to wade through pages of text in the rulebooks, these are really good shortcuts to learning some of the basics. I'll also mention that the WASD 20 Discord server has a great community of people who are good at answering questions for newcomers, so come on over there. Lastly, I do want to once again mention that there are tons of other tabletop RPGs out there, and I really think they're worth exploring. If the rules seem too complex for D&D, there are definitely easier ones. If the fantasy setting isn't your thing, find one that's modern, sci-fi, Victorian England. There are just so many to explore, and DriveThruRPG.com is one of my favorite places to keep up on the new stuff. I'll put a link below. Hey, I welcome your feedback, your questions. Leave it all down in the comments below. I always love to hear from you. You're at the beginning of a really exciting journey, and I'd be honored if my channel can be a small part of that. I'd like to thank the WASD20 patrons for their support. Patrons are people who support the channel on a monthly basis, enabling me to keep doing what I do here. If you want to join up with them, you can get some pretty cool rewards as well. Things like weekly live map drawing streams and campaign diaries. Check it all out over at patreon.com/WASD20. All right, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Take care, everybody. You'll see me again very soon.